Welcome to my views and news. Some news stories for you. First one is from an Ethiopian regional state which has released hundreds of members of opposition groups and armed groups members and commanders have been released from prisons who have been in prisons for months after peace deals have been signed in the region. Secondly, viewers, second news story is about a Brigadier General of Amhara Special Force whose family says that he is in immediate need of medical treatment abroad, but government is not allowing him to leave the country. And thirdly, viewers, Getachew Reda has now been appointed as Tigray interim government head. What is Eritrean government's reaction to Getachew's appointment? How does Eritrea see the appointment of Getachew Reda as Tigray administrator? Firstly, viewers, Benishangul Gumuz region of Ethiopia shares border with Sudan, very close to South Sudan as well. And this region has got Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. For years, several opposition groups, armed groups have been operating in this regional state. And some of these groups have their bases in neighboring countries, especially in Sudan. Ethiopia has long been accusing Egypt and Sudan of interfering in Benishangul Gumuz. The two countries have been opposing the construction of GERD, the dam. Tensions still remain. The issue is unresolved. Egypt, Sudan are calling for the signing of a legally binding agreement about the operations of the dam. And we have seen attacks by these Gumuz fighters on security forces in Benishangul Gumuz region several times in the past. After Pretoria deal, we saw a momentum for peace, for dialogue to resolve conflicts in Ethiopia. In different regions, we are seeing governments, regional governments talking to armed factions. In BG, two opposition groups have signed peace deals with the government. Gumuz People's Democratic Movement and Benishangul People's Liberation Movement. Both have made peace with regional government. Regional president, regional officials, they have negotiated with BPLM in Sudan. Sudan hosted the dialogue. And after the dialogue, after the peace deal signed, 370 members of GPDM, Gumuz People's Democratic Movement, have been released from prisons. And 70 members and commanders of Benishangul People Liberation Movement, BPLM, have also been released from prisons. Now, will these released members be part of some security force? Will they return to normal lives? It's not clear. But a good thing is that peace is prevailing in different parts of Ethiopia. We're seeing similar dialogue between Gambela Liberation Front and Ethiopian government officials, Gambela regional government officials. Talks were held in South Sudan. Gambela shares border with South Sudan. If you remember, I did a video a few days ago on this dialogue. First round has been concluded. The second round could be held in Addis Ababa in coming days. Amhara regional president announced a few days ago that Amhara government was in talks with Ago Liberation Front. Ago ethnic group members have been fighting in Amhara region for years. OLA and Oromia government are showing their interest in start-up dialogue as well. So you see, in different regions of Ethiopia, after Pretoria deal, We have been seeing regions, governments, and groups, armed groups' efforts to find a solution to conflict through dialogue. Secondly, viewers, Brigadier General Tefera Mamo served as the head of Amhara Special Force. In the second round of fighting, when Tigray forces entered Amhara region in 2021, he was leading Amhara Special Force. He was appointed as the leader of Amhara Special Force. Though we heard rumors that there were differences between Tefera Mamo and ENDF, and he had been put in a house arrest. But when Tigray forces withdrew, when they had to retreat from Amhara region, Tefera Mamo was removed from his position. He was appointed as advisor to Amhara president. He refused to take office, so he was fired. And after that, we saw him speak against Amhara regional government, Ethiopian federal government. He said the governments were working against Amhara interests. He criticized the action, the crackdown on Fano fighters too. And we saw that Tefera Mamo was arrested last year. He remained in prison. Later, he was released. And a few months ago, he tried to depart Ethiopia, but he was stopped at an airport. Now, it is being claimed that Tefera Mamo is seriously ill. And a board of doctors of Tibabe Gion Hospital has recommended medical treatment for Tefera Mamo abroad. His wife Menon Hale has confirmed that he is seriously ill, but he is not being allowed to leave the country. Firstly, if Tefera Mamo, Brigadier General Tefera Mamo, wants to depart Ethiopia for medical treatment, obviously he should be allowed. It is everyone's right to have to get medical treatment abroad. Having said that, we know that in Ethiopia leaders have been trying, they have fled the country in the past on medical grounds. They took positions that they were in need of medical treatment abroad. They left Ethiopia and then they started their political activities. Tefera Mamo is being victimized by Ethiopian federal government. He knows that because he is very vocal against federal government, Amhara regional government. So he is not being allowed to work freely in Ethiopia. He wants to leave Ethiopia. He might arrive in the US where he could join AAA or AAA, Amhara Association of America. So he's in touch with the top leadership of AAA. But government should allow Tefera Mamo to leave the country if he is seriously ill. If he isn't seriously ill, even then he should be allowed to leave the country if he wants to visit some other country. Lastly, viewers, Getachew Reda has been elected, has been nominated as Tigray interim government head. PM Abiy made the appointment yesterday after TPLF chose him as party's candidate for Tigray interim government head. He beat Fiseha Haftorsian, another candidate from TPLF, by a lead of only one vote. And we have seen political wrangling, conflict within the party when Getachew was elected as the candidate from TPLF for Tigray interim government head. How does Eritrea see Getachew's election, his appointment as Tigray interim government head? We have not seen any official statement from Eritrean government. Eritrean ministers, information minister, foreign minister, their ambassador, they're silent. I have not seen anyone speak about Getachew's nomination, Getachew's appointment. But I have seen Eritrean news sources making fun of Debretsion. Debretsion had to leave, humiliated, defeated. Though I've been saying that Debretsion led his people from the front. whether Tigrayans could achieve their objectives or not, but Debrecen was there with them in the battlefield. But things are changing now. Now PM Abiy has the main role when it comes to what's going to happen in Tigray. He does not want Debrecen to lead the region. That is why he's been fired. Now, I think Isaias Afwerki's government is watching what is happening in Tigray very closely. Getachew's appointment is for interim period, which would be around 6 months to 1 year long. He is not permanent leader of Tigray for a tenure. And secondly, since PM Abiy made this appointment and both Abiy and Isaias are still in good working relationship, I don't say Eritrea oppose or be unhappy with Getachew's appointment. That is why, though no welcome so far, but we have not seen any message of discontent from any Eritrean ambassador or government official about Getachew's appointment. Let's see how Getachew works as Tigray's interim government head. Will he take some initiative to improve ties with Eritrea? Will he try to change the course? We have seen the two sides exchange hot words, angry statements in the past 2 years or so, especially after the start of the war. Now when things are settling a bit, can Getachew make some big decision while keeping PM Abiy on board to improve ties with Eritrea? That remains to be seen. Maybe Eritrea is silent because it wants to see how Getachew is going to behave in terms of leader of Tigray interim government head. Thank you for watching.